Welcome to Tech for Good with Bethnal Green Ventures. My name's Paul Miller, and I'm delighted this week to be joined by James Johnston, co-founder and CEO of Piclo. Welcome, James.
Hi, Paul. Great to be here.
Oh, well, it's really good to have you here. First of all, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about, where did you grow up? Did you think you were going to start a Tech for Good business when you were a teenager? Or, tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you did before Piclo.
So I'm from the north of Scotland, lovely rural Scotland, and there was a lot of renewable energy production up there. So you always see in amongst the hills, inspired by the thought that there's an alternative way to produce energy, and so I really had that in the back of my mind. But I always my background from university was in engineering, first of all mechanical, and then into control systems, electrical engineering. I took a gap year at university. I was at Strathclyde University in Glasgow, and I took a gap year because I wasn't really inspired by engineering at that point. And I decided, like most people, I wanted to travel around the world. I ended up spending most of my gap year working in London, as it turned out, as an intern at Arup, where I got really exposed for the first time to the whole sustainability crisis that we're witnessing, and climate change, the climate breakdown, but also this is very much a crisis that has solutions, and there's things that we can do. And I really got exposed to that whole world. Actually, then came back to university, reignited my passion for engineering, and then spent another 4 years at university, because I did a master's and then I did 3 years of a PhD. So yeah, I recommend, first recommendation, do a gap year. It completely changes how you may proceed with your life. And so I really the catalyst for what then turned into Piclo was the research I was doing at university, which was really about rethinking how the global electricity system could work, and looking at a completely different paradigm, the telecoms world, and the internet, and the World Wide Web, and all these things that are now really part of the background. But looking at how the architecture of the internet has transformed communication, and could you apply some of the same concepts in the energy and create an energy internet? And that was some of the thoughts that kind of came from that made me really inspired to found a company to actually make this happen.
Yep. So tell us a bit about Piclo and what you've built so far, and how it fits in with that, original idea of almost a decentralized internet of energy. I think was one of the ways that you first described it to me when we met.
Yeah. So I'm a first time founder. So of course we made every mistake in the book. I think that's the first thing to mention. It hasn't overly hurt us, but we've got a whole bunch of scars. And we're a whole bunch wiser, of course. The first big mistake we did was we didn't start with a customer problem. We started with a very high level thesis that if we're going through a complete transformation in the energy sector, away from these centralized power production, fossil fuel power production, to this entirely decentralized, digitalized world with millions coming on billions of smart connected devices, producing, consuming, and storing power. And we needed, at a theoretical level, we needed a completely different kind of marketplace paradigm for this new world than the markets that were set up for the old world. And that's where we started. So we thought, all right, let's build a new kind of marketplace for this future world. And I think you sometimes need a touch of naivety when founding a business that you might never start if you had the full knowledge of all things. So I'd come from a deep background in the sort of the systems engineering perspectives on things and the electrical engineering, how electrons actually flow around the network. I knew I needed to build a founding team that kind of bridged into the software development world, and that's where I found my co-founder, Andy Kilner, and then he brought along someone to be working with for years, Alice Tyler, who then the three of us then set among this journey. But none of us had any background in actual energy markets design, other than, we know how to build software companies and we know how the electrons work. So that was that's the founding story. It was the subsequent then 3 or 4 years of really trying to find product market regulation fit for our ideas, and it wasn't easy.
And were there particular moments where you were like, "Oh, hang on, we've built the wrong thing"?
Yes, but I think you don't immediately jump to the conclusion you built the wrong thing. You start seeing other things that look like they're going to get more traction quickly, and then you have this non-stable situation where you're sort of having two things go at the same time, and then you kind of make the recognition that actually, okay, this is a pivot, and we've got to just let the old thing go, because it's just drawing everyone's attention and effort, but it's not actually part of where we need to go. So pivot isn't like you all sit down and you have a meeting and you go, all right, we need to pivot. It's something you're doing on the side that then starts to become pretty obvious over time. It's the main thing you should be focusing more effort on. And then at some point you let go of the past.
Cool. And tell us about Piclo's products now. So what's the main activity, if you like? Who are your customers? What does the product do? And how did you come to that point?
Well, I think the good points here are that we are still sticking to the original thesis. We're creating a new kind of marketplace for the future of energy, or even the marketplace for the future of energy. But we certainly have gone through we went through a big pivot back in 2016, 2017. The first go at this, and this is when Bethel Green Ventures was invested in, first invested in us. We were building a peer-to-peer energy market archetype, which is more of a B2C type concept, where conceptually very intuitive. Why buy your power from an unknown supplier if you could buy it from the solar panels on your neighbor's roofs, as long as you had the smart meter infrastructure to underpin that. Very easy to understand, doesn't work in practice because the systems, the regulation doesn't support that. But our pivot was then away from, and the aha moment was, okay, there is a real value for a new kind of marketplace here, but it's not a consumer marketplace. It's a B2B marketplace. And it's also, and this is the other aha moment, it's not necessarily energy trading, but a subset of energy, which is something called energy flexibility, which is this sort of hidden glue for the renewable energy sector. It's the concept of flexibility, and there really needed to be a marketplace for the different actors in the value chain, whether these were the distribution grid operators or the national grid operators, or the emerging companies that were setting up big battery systems or fleets of smart EVs that they could manage the power flow to. There was an emerging complex situation where there's all these different actors that either had a need for flexibility to manage the grids and manage congestion or balance the grid, or had the availability to give this flexibility but needed a way to find a counterparty. And we went, right, this is gonna be the shift of focus. We're gonna see how this works, and so the marketplace now is really supports that key use case, energy flexibility trading.
It's amazing. And I mean, what have you learned over the years for designing for a highly regulated market? I mean, energy's up there, isn't it, in terms of the really, really tough, slow moving almost sectors when it comes to regulation? Are there things that you've learned around how to operate as a startup in that kind of sector?
Yes, I mean it's really hard. That's just in some ways there is no shortcuts. I mean we um we wouldn't have as an outsider we wouldn't have seen the opportunity for flexibility marketplace, um, and we needed to be. We spent those first 4 years becoming deep experts in this space, and that's how we saw this opportunity. One of these rare moments, and this is what you need to look for: these rare opportunities where there is white space, where there isn't prescriptive regulations for how things need to work. Prescriptive regulations are, a nightmare because a nightmare for innovation. They obviously serve a purpose in themselves, but if you want to innovate, you want to be doing something different. You can't really work within the space of prescriptive regulations. So we found one of the rare spaces because it was brand new, and the regulator was still with Ofgem in the UK, in Great Britain, we're still sort of looking to see how the market could react and create solutions to fill this space. We kind of hit the market at the right time in the right place. Now the challenge is if you are that industry expert looking to sort of come up with a disruptive new approach in your sector, the problem is you'll come with baggage because you'll know how hard it is. You'll know how hard it is to change. So either if you are an expert looking to really disrupt your own sector, you need to sort of forget all that baggage. Otherwise, you'll be too, bogged down to innovate. And if you are an outsider looking to disrupt the sector, you need to find a way to get that deep knowledge. And I guess maybe a learning for, how could we have sped up that process? Probably brought in more deep energy experts into the team sooner, so that we could sort of accelerate some of that learning.
Cool. And tell us a bit about the long-term vision for Piclo. I mean, you've got so far, but what do you see the company being in a few more years' time, and what's the eventual vision for the kind of impact that you're going to have on the energy system?
Yeah, so we've always had a global outlook, and really the main focus point for us right now is graduating from being a UK business that has some international operations to become truly a global business with major operations across the US, Europe, and Australia. So really that's setting the tone for what we're trying to achieve here. It's a global platform. I mean, there is, the saying in this sector is there's no Google or Amazon of energy yet. There is no major platform play that has had the impact. So, that's the ambition that we're trying to get to. There's a real need for a marketplace for this future world to enable all the complexity, all the emergent complexity to play out on such a marketplace, rather than have emergent complexity written in through prescriptive regulations about how things should work and what people should do. There's a real opportunity to become that. So at a global level. So that's really our ambition.
Mm-hmm. Tell me something that what do you like best about running a tech for good business? So, what are the upsides of being an entrepreneur, of running one of these kind of mission-led businesses?
The thing that really gets me out of the bed in the morning is outcomes. So like, what are the key metrics that your platform is delivering value? Like real, no, not, there's sort of the fake metrics, which are winning awards and, like things like that, which doesn't excite me at all. There are sort of indicators of success, like growing revenues and, bringing in investment. And then there's like the core value, like how much transactions are happening on the marketplace, what value are, how people that are using the marketplace, are you helping them grow their business? Are you helping the grid companies reduce the carbon footprint of the overall system? Like, really, the hard metrics are what excite me. And when you get wins in that are like, this is amazing, that's what really excites me.
Yeah. And what don't you like so much? So, what are the downsides? What are the difficulties of running a tech for good business?
I think I wouldn't say there's really any explicit downsides of running a tech for good business. I think running tech business is hard. We're currently VC backed business. We're always in return, looking for the next scale up phase, fundraising. It's a VC backed business isn't really a place of stability.
Mhm.
It's a place which is aligned to what I'm aiming for, which is sort of reaching for the moon, and you got to reach and get there. But it's a place where I wouldn't describe it as a 9 to 5 job.
Mhm.
It's a lot of work. Turns out trying to change the world is a lot of work. And from what I what really what I get a lot of value out of is sort of constantly pushing myself and learning something new. I'll get bored if I have to end up sort of just doing the same thing year on year. Now, this is the upside to having a kind of a business which is not in a stable position. It's growing, it's changing. There's different. The challenges we have this year can be completely different to the challenge the year before, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually quite like that. Now, for a lot of people, that can be quite disconcerting.
Yeah.
So again, you need to know why you're doing it and why there's sort of founder or employee fits with a company or a stage of a business.
Yeah. So finally, what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking of starting a tech for good business right now? What would your advice to them be?
I mean, I think like, I can't remember who gave me this advice, but I think the first advice is just start something,
Mhm.
right? Just do it, right? That's first advice. So like if you, that's probably more than half the challenge. I can't imagine so many people with great ideas, but never actually, you know, get them over the edge of saying, right, and this is what I'm doing. And then once you started, I mean, there's so much advice. Uh, I guess what I see people that are really, really successful, they do have a sort of unusual level of stubbornness and persistence and tenacity. I think that's probably a common thread.
Yeah.
So if you have those traits and you want to start a business, just do it because you probably will succeed against all the odds.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, James. That's been fantastic. Um, if you do have suggestions for guests or topics we should be covering on Tech for Good, do get in touch. And if you're thinking of starting a Tech for Good venture and looking for investment, don't forget to check out bethnalgreenventures.com to see whether we might be able to help. That's it for this week. Thanks again, James.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for listening and goodbye.